Hey yo guys, I'm back here to do the video I promised to do. I guess I didn't really promise to do it, but I made a video, a text video actually, just suggesting sending in your questions that you want. I want to do a massive Q&A, and finally here to do it. As you know, it's a slow day today, Wednesday. I always figure Wednesdays are the best days for videos. Now up until September the 16th when Tough 10 starts, which it's gonna be fucking great. Let's just put it that way. That show is just gonna be fucking sweet. But I got a lot of questions and figured may as well answer them now. A lot of them actually were good. Was a lot more than I thought I would get. I'm not even gonna lie, which I'm very thankful for. So I decided to pick what I thought were the best ones and answer them. Like I said, a lot of good ones. It wasn't as many, MMA questions I thought I would get, but still some good amount. Actually, a decent amount of questions outside of WWE and TNA. Only thing is, I plan on trying to do one more Q&A before the summer's over. Try not to send in a question about your favorite WWE or TNA event. I have too many favorites. I don't have just one personal favorite. So, other than that, and your favorite match or your favorite wrestler, too many to like, or favorite fighter, too many to like and stuff of that nature. But here we go. Anyways, first question is, what's your favorite TV show besides wrestling and mixed martial arts? Well, I don't really watch as much TV as I actually used to. I used to watch a lot of these programming on Fox, like when during their original shows. But some of my favorite shows are, I like some animation shows like Family Guy, of course, is a good one. The Simpsons is just great. Older episodes of The Simpsons. I find the newer stuff just trying to rehash what they once had, but it's a whole different audience. I like, honestly, a lot of game shows. I'm a big fan of Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, Family Feud. Just recently, I was watching an episode of Family Feud on the Game Show Network and got really involved in it. Like, more involved than I've been in any match on freaking Raw in ever. And probably lost my temper at the one family who made the stupidest answer you've ever heard. But other than that, my favorite two shows would have to be Friends or Seinfeld. I love both those shows. I like Seinfeld definitely a lot more than Friends. I mean, Friends was good and all, but I love Friends to death. My favorite episode is the UFC one, which kind of cheats the question here. But, there's a lot of great ones. I like the shows that have multiple characters in a cast where you don't really have a favorite. You just enjoy the dynamic chemistry that comes off between everyone on the show. I think Seinfeld's probably the greatest show to ever come out on television. That's just my opinion. Just perfect writing, from having a scenario from the opening, which of course only lasts like 2 minutes tops, and then it is resolved at the last 30 seconds of the show or whatever. I think that's just brilliant writing. The comedy is just top notch. And the thing is, it's just such the perfect TV show where there's always a character, or every character, you have tendencies you relate to everyone. So that's one of the reasons I like it. I, of course, also like the, I don't know, really want to say dramas or soap opera type shows, but, shows like The OC, I was a big fan of as well. And when I was growing up, for some reason, I really don't even know how this happened, I was a big fan of Beverly Hills 90210 and Melrose Place. Big fan of those shows. Melrose Place, I kind of hold a little bit higher up, as now I've gotten older and watched a lot of it. That was when it was re-airing. Wow, was that show freaking great. That was like just as good as any pro wrestling you get, honestly. Everyone's turned heel on each other, basically. Wow, that was fucking good stuff. But anyways, those are some of my favorite TV shows. Alright, moving on. Basically, that's the only real random question I got. Anyways, next question is, with the cards that they present and edgy storylines, why does PWG not expand and gain more of an audience? Really, I think it's the fact that they run less shows. A year now, they're running less shows than I think they have in a long time. part of it also is the culture it's in. It's in Southern California, which in Southern California they really don't take sports as serious as they do on the East Coast. As you can definitely tell, like, they care about the Lakers, and really that's it in California, at least. They don't really care that much about, Raiders, Chargers. They care about maybe a little bit about the Dodgers, but other than the other baseball teams, not that much. I mean, you can just look in the crowds and stuff. I think that's a big part of it. Not a lot of people are out there really trying to promote it. I don't know. That's what I would have to be. And a lot of people feel that PWG is just kind of a copy of ROH, just it's in the Southern California, which I wouldn't completely agree with, because PWG has its own uniqueness. It has that California comedy lifestyle, that easygoing back lifestyle to it on the shows. You can really tell. I think the crowd involvement is just as good as an ROH show, and of course the wrestling is just as good. So I think it's a shame that they're not doing there, but I think it's more the environment that it's in, and just that the general perception, that these guys are just copying ROH by trying, but they're the ROH of the Southern California, so that's, I guess, how I see it. Anyways, moving along. Hey, just wanted to know, if you had a time machine and you could go to any wrestling event, which event would it be and why? Plenty of the events I would like to, I don't know. I think that's a good question. My event would probably be the Collision in Korea show, where WCW and the New Japan worked together in Korea, and it was the largest wrestling events ever seen by anyone. Over 2 days, like 2 shows that had over 50,000 people in a communist country, mind you. I think that would be just really, really cool. We also had some pretty good matches on there. A lot of there was good Joshi on there. Of course, there's Too Cold Scorpio and Chris Benoit having a really great match. And of course, Inoki versus Flair is the main event of, I believe, the second night that aired on the Collision in Korea pay-per-view that WCW broadcast back in '95. So that would be the event, just because of the environment that it's in a communist country, and the fact of the seating and the capacity. Like, wow, like, this is a lot of people, and just the fact that how everyone worked really hard just to show that this can work, and show what how great pro wrestling can be. Moving along, your thoughts on the DGUSA Chikara Talent Exchange? I think it's great. I mean, basically, Quackenbush's promo on the show summed it up, that they were both trained by the same guy. So why not? I mean, their styles obviously flow well into each other. A lot of the Chikara guys could use, some more exposure, especially, like a Vin Gerard or a Grand Akuma, who did get on the show. I think that's great. The Colony is a great trio thing, so I think they needed the exposure. There's a lot of guys there that need exposure, and they weren't getting it as much, since it's a independent that's really just relying on DVD sales. Now you're on pay-per-view, with Dragon Gate USA now. I don't think Dragon Gate USA is going to, set in pay-per-view buy rates or anything. Or I think it's, of course, going to be a hardcore audience type pay-per-view. Maybe a couple casual people from, just some feedback on there, just checking out replays. But other than that, I think that's just what they, just a little bit more exposure. I mean, obviously, pay-per-view, there's a little more opportunity out there than just a DVD. So I think that's just one of the positives I think about that. There's everything I think is positive. I don't see, Gabe Sapolsky and Dragon Gate USA trying to sabotage Chikara. I think Gabe always really wanted to work with the Chikara guys, and, he worked with them a little bit just before his run in ROH was over. And that was, an unfortunate thing. I mean, he brought Quackenbush in a couple times, and, he worked Danielson, and worked with Jigsaw against M-Dog 20 and Eric Stevens in a tag. So, I think that there was just always a lot of opportunities, and of course that for those Quack meetings were in 2007, but I think there's a lot more opportunities that he wanted to do with the Chikara guys, so now he gets the opportunity, and plus, I think their styles mesh so well, as Dragon Gate is basically Lucha Libre. Chikara is a United States version of a Lucha Libre promotion, so why not do it? That's what I thought. What's your opinion about a storyline between Go Shiozaki and Akitoshi Saito, revolving around Go wanting to have revenge for what happened to Misawa in June. You know, do I think it's a tasteless storyline? A little bit. I mean, since it's pretty soon since Misawa passed away, but actually more so that Saito is getting this title shot more or less because Go recommended it because of everyone in a lot of the people in the Japanese media and a lot of the Japanese fans blamed him for this tragedy that took place when it was just that, a tragedy that was only a one-time deal and a complete accident. I mean, obviously he didn't purposely try to kill him. I mean, if he purposely tried to kill him, then it's a different story. If it's an incident that happens like Bruiser Brody and in the Invader 1 in Puerto Rico, then different story. But this is a complete accident. Do I think? But like I said, do I think it's a little bit distasteful to an extent? But you know what? That just gets Go a bigger rub. I mean, Noah really wanted to get Go over a little bit later than he did, but because of Misawa's passing, they had to get the title on. Of course, that was more because Yuna Akiyama had to forfeit the belt, but he was eventually going to be booked to win it. So I think, having him stand up for the honor of Misawa-san, great. Gets Go a little bit more publicity. Why not? It also gets Noah a lot more recognition, maybe because of the fact that they don't have TV anymore, and maybe he's standing up for the honor of Misawa. So let's go for it. Hopefully after this, Saito. I hope Saito puts on such a great match with Go that people can completely forget about this situation. Even though I don't think that'll happen, I think this is going to be linked with him, unfortunately. But that's just my thoughts there. I think it's going to be it should be a really good match. I think Go can pull anything out of anyone. So that's just my opinion on this issue. Yeah, I think it's maybe a little bit too soon to do it, but I think it was inevitably gonna happen. So, and I think it's nice of Go to actually recommend having the match with Saito. So that's just my opinion. After a title defense in welterweight, should GSP move up to middleweight or stay in welterweight and maybe have a rematch with John Fitch? Really, I don't see any point in GSP moving moving up to 185 pounds. Really, the guy's, like everyone has said before, a natural welterweight. His frame size is perfect for a welterweight. I don't see any reason for him to move up to 185. I mean, he'd be a little bit too small. He wouldn't be, too small in size and in mass. I don't think there's any reason for him to move up. It wouldn't be pretty. Let's just put it. A lot of the guys are bigger. I think he's, his skill is really good, but I think it's, going to be a lot harder taking down someone who's got a lot more size in both the mass and height capacity. So that's why I really don't need to see it. And I mean, of course, people say, well, let's get this match with Anderson Silva and GSP. Like I said, I don't think GSP can really move up that well. He'd be actually really dwarfed in size, and I don't think the fight's ever going to happen. It'd have to maybe be a catch weight at something where both men could agree upon. Anderson Silva won't go down. He probably can't even cut to make 170. And I don't see any point in both guys trying to move up. I mean, if it's the last end, yeah, but Silva can move up still, as it's been proven. And I don't know what you do with St. Pierre. I mean, of course he's hurt, so he needs to maybe build up challengers. Would a rematch with John Fitch be good? I don't know. I think John Fitch needs to impress a hell of a lot of people to gain a new title shot. Of course, GSP is obviously going to take on the winner of Martin Kampman, Mike Swick, and I think if Kampman wins, that poses a more entertaining fight. I don't see it being any problems for GSP, but of course GSP takes every fight seriously, which you should. And with Swick, I think he poses a little bit of more interest. He's a little bit bigger than GSP. He's got a lot of power, but other than that, I think GSP strategy is going to be mostly for any fight he's in, take it to the ground, and that's where I would say Kampman poses a little bit more of an advantage to if the fight were to happen with GSP, but in the long run, I don't see anyone coming close to dismantling or taking the belt off GSP. Your thoughts on Chris Hero right now? Thumbs up. Thumbs up to the gimmick or thumbs down. I'm talking ROH mostly, but his moveset has changed drastically as well in every other promotion that I've seen him in, even where he's still a face. Really, I like the whole Chris Hero new look. One of the things I think that held Chris Hero back was his look. I mean, a lot of people did like it, but he couldn't really be taken seriously as, a true contender. His wacky look. I think definitely the trips to Japan, like most people, helped the man out a lot. I like the new look, especially where he's just got the trunks. I mean, he does look like a young Barry Windham, which always is a big thumbs up in my mind. Definitely, changing his style, I think helped. He now treats himself as a serious wrestler, and with the power displays, he still has, that athleticism stuff, so like he can do a lot of the still flying stuff, which is impressive. I think this is more of a positive. Other part of your question, it's changed drastically. Another, even if he's still face, yeah, I mean, but still, there's no. I mean, I don't think changing the style is gonna officially hurt him. I think it's more a positive. He changed his look. His style has changed a bit, but I mean, it hasn't changed 100%. So I think everything is a positive in the Chris Hero direction. I mean, hell, Chris Hero is now, he's linked up there with the American Wolves on the television show with Ring of Honor. He's getting that getting a big match with Eddie Kingston, which I think will be a little bit more interesting since we haven't seen these two have a match in a long time. I believe in 2 years now. So may as well go for it. And I just like the whole new look. Makes him more serious. Makes him look like a viable contender for the title. Like I thought in 2007 when he was, challenging Nigel for it right after Nigel won the belt, I thought, he's got the talent, he's got the charisma, he's got the mic skills. Look may hold him back for people believing this man can be a champion. Now he's definitely got that out of the way. He looks like a true pro wrestler. So, Chris Hero, and you just look at the man in the ring with his psychology and realizing a situation when something goes wrong. That's just, you can't teach that. That's just great stuff. Anyways, do you collect wrestling DVDs? I wouldn't say I collect them, I pick them up. So, that's just I pick them up. I wouldn't say collect, I have a pretty good collection of tapes and DVDs. So, yeah, I guess you could say I collect them. For both, wrestling and MMA. Next question. Do you think WrestleMania should come to London, the UK, or anywhere outside of North America? Do I think it should come to the UK or London? I don't think it'll happen. I think that while there's a big fan market out there, WWE wasn't as successful as they'd hoped for, pay-per-view buy rates in North America, which is what really they wanted when they did this SummerSlam 92 in London. I think the thing will be, it won't happen there. The time zone factor isn't as bad as people are claiming it to be, because I know WWE would put the show on probably live, like the UFC does when they go to Ireland or the UK, put it on live and then you have a replay. But I just don't think that. I think that would hurt it, and plus there would be results coming out a lot quicker than they used to. So right there, that's gonna hinder it from happening in the UK or, like you said, if it's gonna go anywhere internationally, I personally believe it'll happen. It'll come back to Canada within 5 years, or probably Mexico as well. In Mexico right now, the WWE is like the biggest thing going, because of the production values. They got Rey Mysterio, they got bigger than life stars. People are like, wow, look at their body types, and oh my god, these are just like action, like basically what happened with wrestling in the 80s here in North America. That basically the same thing's happening there. And Mexico is huge. Wrestling's huge right now. WWE wrestling, I should say, is huge right now in Mexico. Pay-per-view, which isn't a big thing in Mexico, for WrestleMania 25 got like one of the a huge buy rate coming from them, and made their international buy rate bump up, greatly from WrestleMania 24. So I definitely see it happening there. Their live attendance at their events are really strong. Really, I think it'll happen there eventually. I think they need to maybe. I don't know what will happen. I think it could happen there. The time zone issue isn't as bad in Mexico. So I think it's gonna have to happen maybe in the next 10 years. I think we may see one in Mexico because they also love to sell out a big arena. You can run a soccer stadium. Hey, Ray in a big match, or if they get another one of these luchadors who coming up from FCW in a big program, I think this could work. Next question. First question. Your questions about pro wrestling. What's your favorite heel turn and face turn in wrestling history? My favorite heel turn probably would be the Terry Funk heel turn on Ric Flair back in 1989. I thought that was just awesome. As Ric Flair had been working as a heel, but I wouldn't really say that as much as he was when he was with the Four Horsemen. He was working as a heel against Ricky Steamboat and putting on some of the greatest matches the business has never seen. And you had Funk come in like, hey, I'd like a title shot, and Flair's, well, Terry, I don't think you can hang with me. I don't think you can hang with anyone. And there's a lot of contenders ahead of you. And Funk of course goes, so you don't think I'm good enough? He's like, no, but I don't think you're ready. I got to go with these other contenders first. And it's like, oh, okay. And they shake hands, and then he just decks him. And then they just do one of the most, at the time, shocking things in the business, where Funk just gives a pile driver on Flair through a table, and actually, gave Flair a pretty bad neck injury. They tried to sell it off that it broke his neck, and they came back. And then, from that point on, Flair was a mega babyface in WCW before leaving for the WWF. And he was a mega babyface from '89. And they just put on such a great feud there with Terry Funk. They did this angle that, never took off, that they had to have Terry Funk come back to TV and apologize, where it was a tag match with Sting and Flair versus, I believe, Muta and Buzz Sawyer. And during the match, Terry Funk did a run-in and put a plastic bag over Flair, it's essentially suffocating him. And that would have just been huge money. But TBS, being all family-oriented, wanted Funk to apologize, saying, basically, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take it as far. It hurt the feud, but really, they put on some great matches. The I Quit match is awesome from the New York Knockout show. Awesome match. I love that match. My favorite face turn, I don't know. I like a lot of them. Face turn. I enjoyed Boss Man's face turn to an extent, but it's not my favorite. Face turn. Buddy Rose had a pretty awesome one in Portland, where he was a massive heel for years, in the Portland territory, and then he just turned face for the first time. Everyone hated the man. I think one of my favorites though would be Piper during the program with Adrian Adonis. I thought that was just so well done, as everyone hated him, and then he just got in this feud there, and he just became loved because he had so much charisma, and you could really tell that the fans hated him, but they also really wanted to cheer him. Like, we really can't hate this man because he's so good at what he does. So I thought that was just great stuff. And of course, there's an episode on Saturday night's main event. I believe the main event, or one of the big matches, was Hogan versus Adonis. It was either Hogan versus Adonis or Hogan versus Cowboy Bob Orton. And Piper comes down after they did that big attack on his knee, Orton and Adonis with the help of Jimmy Hart, and he's coming down on the crutches and he saves Hogan. It's like, wow, that's just awesome. That's probably one of my favorite ones there. So I'll just put it at that. There's too many really great ones to name. It's kind of hard to come something off the top of your head. After the Ken Flo BJ Penn fight at UFC 101, who would you like to see getting the next title shot? I've heard Gray Maynard if he beats Roger Herta, which I would like to see, and I've and I have Diego, and I would like to see Diego, but I think he needs another win at lightweight. Who do you think? I think it's going to be Diego Sanchez. I definitely don't see another reason. I think Gray Maynard would be next in line after Sanchez. I mean, UFC's obviously looking from the standpoint of, Diego's known because he's from one of the most successful seasons. I believe still the second most successful, or maybe the most successful. I can't really say that in season one, and he won. The first. He was a winner of the show, so that would be one of my other things. I believe it was he won at middleweight, and then he cut down. Yeah, he won at middleweight, cut down to welterweight, and now he's at lightweight. So I think that would be, and plus I think that fight is just going to be a very entertaining fight. BJ can hang his own, or excuse me, Diego can hang it on the ground. I think for a while with BJ, and I think Diego's style really brings out a very interesting thing. He likes to just right in your face, and I think Kenny was a little bit tentative in that fight. I just love to see how someone who likes to bring the pace to BJ would handle it. Gray Maynard's a great wrestler and all, but I don't think he's gonna have as good of a chance as Diego. Go with Diego. That's my opinion there. Next question is, after listening to Dana's comments on Strikeforce, do you think this is good to have competition between UFC and Strikeforce? And how many events did M1 Global ever have? Because for some crazy reason, I've never heard of that company. Well, I don't think it's more so competition. I think it's more, Dana was just upset that they got Fedor and they're just there. They have, a couple guys that they would like, and they had the Babalu Musasi fight that they actually really wanted to have. I wouldn't say Strikeforce is directly competing, which is a smart strategy. Hell, look at every other company that tried to directly compete with the UFC, where we got all this great backing, and they couldn't draw flies on pay-per-view. They didn't put on any intrigue to anyone. Bodog, IFL really not so much, but Bodog, the WFA, Elite XC. Pride to an extent. Pride was obviously a little bit successful, but once the Yakuza stuff came out, that was just the end of Pride. No one wanted them on TV in Japan, and hell, UFC couldn't even get on TV with Japan with them. Saying, "Oh, we were different owners and everything." But anyways, that's beside the point. I think it's just a different thing. I like Strikeforce's mentality, how they're handling it. Like, we're not going to try to compete with them. We really have to establish ourselves. They did really strong there on last Saturday's show with Gina Carano and Chris Cyborg. Got over 500,000 viewers, which is very good for a network that's only in 21 million homes in the United States. That and breaking their other record from February of 2008 with Kimbo Slice versus Tank Abbott. So I think that's really impressive there. I think they can. They can compete, but by indirectly competing, by just putting on strong cards. They're not saying, look, we're coming after you, we're going to do this and that. Coker's handling that well. I will give him credit for, Atencio trying to get into it. That his mentality was, look, we're going to create interest in our cards by calling out the UFC. Well, that's just not really great. You're actually more promoting the UFC more than anything. And I like how he's just keeping to himself and the fact that, Strikeforce only worries about Strikeforce. So that's a big positive there. With M1, they only really run events based off. If you remember what the IFL did, it's a team event. They kind of do that with countries. They run events all over the world, and it's only on HDNet, and they're okay events, but not many. Unless you're a hardcore, you watch them. I mean, I watched them, and they're good, but definitely wouldn't see M1 Global being the greatest thing ever. The team concept in MMA, while it's actually a little bit more crucial than you think it would be, because everyone has a camp that they train with, doesn't really work that well. MMA is mainly an individual sport. It's kind of hard to have all that aspect of a team and points and everything. No, let's just go for after titles and having great fights, and that doesn't work. And yeah. Anyways, next question is, How a match is staged. I mean, I know it's all scripted, who wins, who loses, but I'd like to know if everything is scripted. I mean, like every punch, every kick. Do the wrestlers know the exact time that they're gonna have in the ring? I mean, 15 to 20 minutes, or someone else guides them, like the referees or a fake photographer. Basically, to answer that question, not every aspect is scripted. Basically, they know how much time they're getting. They know the finish, and that's about it. Really, they go from there. They start out how they have a starting point. They like, well, this is what the moves we're gonna start off with. This is what we're gonna do. Little schmas and stuff. What part to work over, and then the finish. They mainly just flow from there, and I think that's how you have to do it. You can't script out every single thing in a match, or else it's gonna look too choreographed, and people aren't gonna care, and it's gonna end up bad. So that's just the one thing. Um, with knowing about the time, they get it. The referee has it in his earpiece, and he tells them like, "You got to wrap it up. You got 5 minutes. Go home." So most of the time it's the referee, but in some circumstances, the wrestlers will say like, "Look, go home. Like, you hit a big move on me, I'm hurt, or you hit a big move on me, that looked cool. We're not gonna top this. Go home. Keep your heat. Keep yourself marketable." That's one thing that happens there. I don't think the photographers aren't fake. They actually are there to take pictures for a magazine or something else, for a website. They have no say in how the match goes. The next question would be, I've read on the internet that Vince McMahon hates Christian. Basically, he wants to know, is that true? Vince McMahon has a big gripe against Christian. Doesn't believe he can be a superstar. But you have to say he's been fair. The WWE has been fair to Christian since he came back. They try and let him be a star in his own right, on ECW, which I was surprised that they didn't take him off there, but I guess they want to see how really big of a star he is. Considering the program he was in last was with Tommy Dreamer, which isn't saying much. I guess his influence has helped ECW a lot more. Like, since ECW's been switched back to 10 o'clock, if you actually look at a lot of their ratings, they're doing so much better than they should be doing. They've kind of fallen back a little bit to normal. I mean, their last rating was a 1.2, but for them, for like a couple weeks string, to be getting 1.4s, 1.3s for a show at 10 o'clock on a sci-fi network, that's pretty damn good. And I think most of that would maybe have to be a little bit attributed to Christian. You can't say that, like, really, do you want to watch Vladimir Kozlov or Ezekiel Jackson? Not really. So people want to see him. People remember him from the past, from the glory days, so that helps them a lot. So I think that would be a big factor in there. But like I said, I think they've handled it, fairly well. I think he's earning his own right. They rewarded him with the ECW belt for having some of the best matches in the company, and still to this day. I mean, he gave Zack Ryder his best match in the company. So that's my thoughts there. What'd you think of Jim Cornette's promo on Joey Styles? I thought it was freaking awesome, as I believed, like a lot of people, that half these things that people report on, with CNN or Fox News about politics and the American president, are just bullshit, and they're just trying to create drama or tension in the U.S., and I think it was just classic Cornette stuff. That's just my opinion there. What else did he say? Basically, Joey Styles' Twitter thing about the president, I think, was more a WWE direction. I don't know if Joey Styles actually believes that, but the big thing is Vince McMahon does not like Barack Obama. He felt that since he won the candidacy, that the economy would be a lot worse than it was before he got his presidency. And I really can't say that it has been. I think markets have actually increased a little bit over the past couple months now. So he's doing his thing. And that was more Joey Styles just doing what I guess a company decision. So, Jim Cornette blasted him, and rightfully so, in my opinion. I don't really want to get into a whole politics here, but, I think Obama's doing great stuff for the country. He created more hope. He definitely has helped get more the markets to have back up a little bit, but I don't want to get onto that tangent. Anyways, moving along here. Seeing as you're from Canada, are you aware of the interspecies wrestling? And if so, what do you think of the product? Same goes with the International Wrestling Syndicate, IWS. but I think that you are aware of them. I'm aware of both promotions. Interspecies wrestling is kind of a comedy promotion, but I enjoy it. It's good comedy. It had one of the funniest matches of the year with a giant tiger versus Sexy Eddie, where both men were completely drunk. Sexy Eddie did a moonsault off the top rope, holding his balls. Kind of funny stuff. Pretty funny stuff. Giant Tiger's one of the more funny characters in wrestling. He's a heel, but he's kind of really small and very out of shape. I smokes a lot, so I enjoy the interspecies wrestling. They do funny stuff. You can't take them too seriously. With IWS, they're of course the stomping grounds of Kevin Steen and El Generico. A little bit too hardcore for my liking. They have some good technical wrestlers in there, but other than that, not much I can say. I mean, I believe they had the Super Smash Brothers as well, but other than that, and Kevin Steen and El Generico, and they have some good matches, but other than that, I think they get a little bit too hardcore-y for me. To me, the best promotion right now in Canada is probably C4 or BSE. So that would be my opinion. Anyways, the next question would be, I've been working on getting some Japanese shows. I want to start with finding some of the great overall shows from All Japan, New Japan, Dragon Gate, and Noah. I've seen a bunch of great matches from these 4 promotions, but I want to see what are the promotion's best overall shows. To watch from top to bottom. Excuse me. What would you say are the best all-time shows you've ever seen from each of these 4 promotions? Excuse me. With All Japan, honestly, a lot of the All Japan stuff you're gonna want is from the 90s for sure. It was like great stuff there. Akiyama, Misawa, Kobashi, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Terry Gordy. A lot of that you're gonna definitely want to see. I like their stuff from the 70s as well with, Funk. And Baba, when Baba was still pretty good. Let me just put it to you that way. People say, oh, Baba sucked, man. Well, you must have seen him from the 80s or later in his career. Baba in the 70s was a badass dude. Put it that way. You want a lot of their I can't really recommend big, just a lot of their shows from the 70s are good. Hanson and Brody as well in there. That's also in the early part of the 80s. 80s was also pretty good for All Japan. 90s is great stuff as well. I mean, 90s produced actually some of the greatest matches in the business's history as well. New Japan, you're gonna want a lot of this. I'd say recommend some of their stuff from the 80s. There was, of course, the UWFI or the UWF feud with New Japan, which led to the birth of the NWO. That was a really interesting feud there. Of course, the Super Junior 94 and 95. Well, 95 is a war show, so I guess I can't recommend that. The 94 Super June J Cup, awesome. I mean, completely awesome. Not even a bad match on that show. I bet you the worst match on that show is like 3.5 stars. So let me just put it to you that way. Dragon Gate, a lot of the Dragon Gate stuff I'd recommend are their pay-per-views, especially from the later years. That's basically a lot. Dragon Gate from 2005 to 2008 on. Anything really, get your hands on. But more importantly, the pay-per-views is where I would be. With Noah, it would be the big Budokan Hall shows. That's definitely something I recommend there. With New Japan, also the Tokyo Dome shows as well. So just try and look out for their big shows. If you go to IVP videos, you will see links with, classic matches and stuff. Pick some of those up. And you're going to see stuff from today that are 2 discs for, New Japan or All Japan. Definitely recommend those as well. Like, a G1 Climax for New Japan as well. Yeah, that's just a lot of the stuff I recommend. If you find anything for 2 discs with, Noah, Dragon Gate, All Japan, New Japan, definitely pick those up. Those are going to be really good. Anyways, do you think Undertaker turning into the American Badass back in 2000 and becoming a man instead of a phenom hurts and still hurts the character of the Undertaker being a dead man? No, you know what? I really don't. I thought he needed to snap away from it, especially since the, towards the end. He came back in, 99, maybe 2000 with that gimmick. I thought, it freshened up the character. He's still over. It didn't hurt him at all in marketability. And, maybe let, more fans who thought maybe his other stuff was too goofy relate to the guy. And, now he's back to the Undertaker of old, which I still think works. So it definitely didn't hurt it at all because he knew how to play that character and he knew how to be himself. So why not do that? I don't think it hurts it at all. Why did all the 1999 WCW and WWF pay-per-views suck? Well, the thing with both those companies are differently respected. I wouldn't say all the WWF shows sucked, and I wouldn't say all the WCW shows in '99 sucked. I'd say most of the main events in WCW sucked, as their booking from this point on killed the company. Basically, one of the main reasons this company is dead, and I actually plan on doing a video about WCW and them being dead. But, WWF, I wouldn't say that their shows all sucked. I would say that their undercards were all sucky. Their main events were great stuff. I don't think you can really say that the whole show sucked. If everything sucked, then a lot of people would have stopped watching wrestling. You can't just say that. Like, WCW still had great cruiserweight matches. You still had, great stuff, for an extent with Jericho for a while. You still had the luchadors. You still had a lot of those strong undercard workers. Benoit, of course, was there in '99. Malenko, Guerrero, Conan. But their main events and their booking were just so stupid and overbooked. And it's like, what are you doing? With WWF, their undercards were just not the greatest matches. Undercard, perspective wasn't that strong. But their main events were just great because the people were so invested into the characters in the main event programs, and actually the work rate that came out of them were really strong. You can't say all their pay-per-views that the WWF put on in '99 sucked. Have you seen the '99 Rumble? That one was okay, I guess I should say, but hell, that had Rock Mankind, a great feud. So, a lot of the character development up there was really strong. You believed in it. The work rate actually was good because the thing in the WWF/E, and still to this day, like I say, the thing is, in their main events, you fucking better deliver. And if you don't, you're not going to see that scene anymore. Look at, them in '95. They tried so hard with Mabel, and Mabel couldn't really work that well in the main event. He was a okay guy in a tag, not the greatest relief to be out there in a single, but he's okay if you keep him in a single, I guess, in the mid-card status. But in the main events, he was terrible. He was terrible. People more booed him because he sucked than actually for the reason that getting heat. So that's just he couldn't draw at all. A lot of those guys in the main events could draw, and just that program with still with McMahon and Austin, it was just so you cared, you were invested. WCW was just all over the place. They had run a storyline that went way too long with the NWO, and now I'm starting to get off on a tangent on 1999, and let's move away now. Next question is, if you could ask Vince McMahon 3 questions, what would they be and why? Okay. So my 3 questions would be, number 1, is your beef with Randy Savage really about Stephanie McMahon? As I have 2 different interpretations of it. I kind of actually more do lean towards that altercation, but I still believe part of me, Vince is upset with Savage is because he couldn't make a deal with him, couldn't even match a WCW offer before Savage, signed and left for WCW. That would definitely be one of them. Second question would be, had WrestleMania 1 not been successful, what would you be doing today? I definitely don't think he would have been a big ally, for sure. I think a lot of people would, have maybe not wanted him because, what he tried to do and taking their talent and everything. I don't know if a lot of companies would have used him, but that would definitely be one. What would you be doing? Would you still be involved in the business had WrestleMania 1 flopped? Say Brody came in and did that run-in. I don't think, he ever intentionally did, but would that have happened? Would that have happened? Would your company and the business in general have been so successful? And I guess my number 3 question would be, I guess how long were... I can't really think of 3. I can't really... I definitely just got 2. Those are just 2 two great questions. I mean, something of the fact of, drug testing, and I guess my third one would be in 1992. Was 1992 the most hectic year of your life? Was it 92 or 94? Were those the most hectic years of your life? And in 94, how advanced? I guess this is my final question. In 94, how advanced was the plan for someone else taking over the WWF if you had gone to prison on those charges of steroid distribution or anything like that? I think that's definitely interesting because they did have a plan, and when Pat Patterson running the WWF. So, how advanced were those plans? Like, were they from 93, 92? Had you mapped this plan out that far? So, those would be my questions. Next set of questions here. In the Sting Hogan match from Starrcade 97, in which Bret Hart made his debut for WCW, how much of that was scripted and how much of that was on-the-spot stuff from Bret Hart? Was it really always meant to go in the way of a quick count and Bret coming in, or did the referee just royally fuck it up and Bret saved the day? Okay, what you want to remember is, of course, Bret Hart is coming off the screw job. He makes his debut at this pay-per-view. He's really the hottest thing in wrestling. Let's just put it that way. So, Nick Patrick is supposed to do this fast count on when Hogan covers Sting. And it's supposed to have Bret Hart come out and say, "No, I've been screwed by a referee before. I'm not letting it happen again." Nick Patrick fucks this thing up. I mean, he makes a basic count. And Sting looks like a complete goof out there because he got pinned. So why the fuck is Bret coming out there? And then they restart the match and Sting gets the win. But it kind of kills Sting's momentum as champion. Don't you think? I think it does. He just got pinned by Hogan. You can't say that Hogan purposely did that. I think that's more a complete fuck up on Nick Patrick's part. And it really was the end of WCW's strong momentum. They got a lot of momentum in 98 with Goldberg. But, this is supposed to be that big program, and that just hurt the match. That was the program, basically, WCW was writing their whole, a lot of the stuff on, actually, was Sting, Hogan, and Patrick fucks it up to an extent. He did. He fucked this thing up. He counted Sting down. Sting looks like a chump because he got counted out when Bret's like, why? Why is Bret restarting this match when he clearly got pinned for 3? How are we supposed to believe this is a fast count? Did not work at all. I believe that is it for the questions. So, once again, this is actually very enjoyable. A very long video, so if you make it through here, I'm actually kind of sorry that this one went this long. But I wanted to go in depth, and because I have the ability to, I felt the need I needed to. Anyways, that's going to be it from this video. I'm definitely out. If you'd like to send in more questions on both pro wrestling and MMA, send it to the inbox. Try to keep it away from your favorite match, wrestler, fighter, pay-per-view of all time, anything like that. Anything you'd like to know, past, present, I'm there. Anyways, that's it for me. I'm out. Peace.